Hi, I'm Sarah Hewins, and today I'm introducing the Community Steps Up. I'm introducing a fledgling organization today called the Young People's Alliance of Carver, better known as YPAC. With me here this afternoon is Roger Shores, our Executive Director, Lisa Blair, our Chair, and Corey Ward, our Secretary. I am also an officer, just recently elected as Vice Chair. First, I'd like to start with you, Roger. Tell us exactly, in your own mind, what this organization is all about, this Young People's Alliance of Carver.
Well, having lived in Carver for 45 years, bringing up 5 children, and now 12 grandchildren, I have great concerns about free time and what these kids do, my kids as well as other kids, my grandkids, what they do after school. We have a lot of problems, as every community does. We have, obviously, that's been in the news, but I know from being a teacher for 25 years that we have a substance abuse problem. But that is just one of the problems. We have bullying problems. We have bullying problems leading to substance abuse problems. We have children where their mothers and fathers work and they come home to an empty house and then it's party time. It's just a whole slew of problems where young adults or kids, or whatever you want to call them, I call them our future. They have idle time, and we have idle time. It may not be a healthy time, especially with kids of younger age, because they're tempted to experiment, and that's what childhood is about, and growing up's about, is experimentation. But there's a lot of dangerous things that you can experiment with nowadays, and my hope, or my goal for a youth group is to allow or have a place for these kids to go if they want. Now, it's going to be their decision. If they want to go and do things after school where they'll be safe, where they can hang out. They don't have to hang out on the corner. They can hang out at our facility. And they can feel safe without being bullied. Bullying, to me, is one of the key things. I feel stronger about bullying than I do substance abuse, because I think that leads to substance abuse as well as other social and economic problems for the town. Social for the kids, economic for the town.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Roger. Can you tell us a little bit about your own background and why you became interested in starting this group?
Well, when I came out of college, I was a research scientist, but it was a very unfulfilling job. I mean, you get your fulfillment through your publications, your patents, and things like that. But it's always been kids. And my wife and I chose to have 5 children. I'm using that as an example of where my passion is. And my passion is with young kids and the future of our country. And the future of our country depends upon the future of our town. One of the things that would be my main goal for a youth center, you know, I've mentioned 4 or 5 times already, just a safe place for kids to hang out and learn social values, social interaction without being pressured.
Thank you, Roger. Lisa, tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about your background, what you do, how you got on board with this.
I moved to Carver in 1990, and I have two children. One is 19, one is 10. I was raised as a latchkey child, and I was lucky to have done that in the 70s. The kids now aren't as lucky, and having children so far apart, I can see what has happened to children that had nowhere to go, had no safe place to be, and now I have a young one coming into the dangerous port of age 11 to 14. And I believe I am lucky because I have the flexibility to be at home when he gets home, to take him to every game and every practice, and not all children have that. So my goal is to have children not get lost on the wayside, to have a safe place. Again, I think that's the most important for all of us, and to feel part of the community, not left at home alone with a TV or a computer or video game.
Thanks. Corey, what about you? Tell us your take on the whole thing.
Well, I have wanted to be a teacher for as long as I can remember. I think it was as far back as freshman, sophomore year in high school. And I grew up in Carver, so it's pretty near and dear to my heart. My grandfather is one of the selectmen, so all of the benefits and the dreams for Carver have been bouncing around in my family for years. And so when I heard of the opportunity to join an organization like this to really help kids who need it, that just inspired me so much, and I was so excited to do whatever I could to make something like this happen, because growing up in Carver, I've seen, even when I was in high school a couple years ago, it was starting. We have all kinds of kids who just need some kind of place to help them learn to be who they are and how to express themselves in a more positive way than kids have been. They need strong role models and a place where they can learn to be a leader and learn to impact their community in the best way possible. So I'm really excited about it.
That's wonderful. Well, we're really glad you came on board. I know early on last summer we did a survey and sent it home to the kids. The K through 5 took it home with them, and the 6th through 12th graders answered the survey on their own, and we had a pretty good return rate. A lot of the programs that these young people and their parents asked for, we have a little chart that we made up showing them, and it's a huge variety of things that they've asked for. What are some of your ideas, Roger, about the types of programs that we might want to see there, or maybe the first kinds of programs that you'd like to see there? Both.
Well,
short-term, long-term.
The bottom line is that we have to get kids there. Once we get kids there, they're actually going to dictate a lot of the programs that we're going to run. Because they are the key. I mean, we have to understand what they need and what they want. Being an educator for 25 years, I've learned to do that. I've learned how to mingle and listen. That's a big thing, listening to them. But to be more specific on your question, the 3 programs that I'd like to start out with to get young people there would be a tutoring program. That would be number 1, not number 1 in importance, just number 1 on my list.
Sure.
Number 2, discussions with the local police chief. I'd like to get what I call a PAL type of program, like a police activity league or police athletic league, where the police officers in town, on their own time now, and I'll have to talk to the unions and things like that, I would guess, but I know a lot of the young police men in Carver, and I know in my heart that they would donate their time where they could come and help kids in terms of working with them, maybe weightlifting, maybe boxing, maybe wrestling, and if students want it, maybe on the side advice about certain situations, how you get out of situations. I would hope that it would evolve into something like that. I do know that years ago, when I was in middle school, which we called junior high at the time, we had such a system. And I think that I developed values and decision-making techniques from the local policemen that really helped me through high school, not just in athletics, but also helped me in my academics, but even more important, outside of school, my decision-making processes. And then also it helped me in college. So I would like to see, you know, some type of system like that. And being your director, I've done a lot of investigating. And there's a model program that I'm looking at in Melrose, which is called, I don't know the exact name, but I call it Friday Night Out, where kids come for a small fee on Friday nights, and they just hang inside. They'll use Xboxes, computers, popcorn, and just some place to hang out on Friday nights. And it's been quite a success in that community. And that's a community's a little more city-like than we are, but in terms of their school system, their scheduling, their middle high school is right next to the high school, so they have that potential pressure of being in the 6th grade, being influenced by 11th graders. Things like that are similar in that community as they are in Carver. So I'm looking at that program quite extensively. And the input I've received from our board of directors, both the old ones, some who've kind of weeded them out a little, and some of the new ones coming on, they seem to be quite excited about that type of program. So those would be the first 3 programs that I would like to see developed to start off with.
And I know that during our open house this past September, we had a very successful arts and crafts program down in the basement. It was, we had lines until 4 o'clock down there, which was just marvelous. We didn't realize. We knew it was something that children had asked for on the survey and the parents had asked for, but we didn't know how much they really would enjoy it. So that was very exciting. Lisa, Corey, you have any ideas for programming or ways you might be able to use some skills that you have to help them?
Well, I know it's great that you mentioned the open house, because I was thinking the exact same thing. That spirit and just the community feeling that was there, and how many kids were so excited about that, is really kind of what I was hoping to see for YPAC. And my brother is 17 right now. He's a junior in high school, and he was volunteering in the weightlifting section.
Right.
And I took some pictures of him, and just the look on his face when he was able to show other kids exactly what he could do and give them some of the skills that he had, I think that was such an empowering moment for him. And I'm really excited about the fact that we kind of want to dictate it around what the kids want out of the program, so that they have that sense of empowerment, that sense of, we have adults in this community who are going to listen to us, and they are out for our best interests, and we can kind of shape our futures and shape our time the way that we want to.
Yeah, yes.
So
I'm glad you mentioned that. That was very exciting. Lisa?
I am hoping that we have create our own little community of teenage kids that want to be somewhere other than hanging around looking for something to do. I think that our own little community could be something as easy as doing your homework together. Being alone and being with a new friend can strengthen the teenage group in this town. I firmly believe that.
I agree. And I'm hoping that at some point, if we do expand, I know, Roger, you'd been talking about our initial programs being for maybe the middle school age group. And if at some point we expand it to some of the younger, well, even the middle school. I know that I run a volunteer story time at the library, and I've been doing it since my son was 3, so it's been 17 years, and I just can't stop, you know. And I try to keep it focused on the natural world. So while we do holidays and things like that, of course, and concepts, ABCs and numbers, I try to really focus on what's going on outdoors. You know, what are the animals doing? What are the plants doing? What's the natural world doing? It's getting dark at night. Winter's coming. And in the spring, we have 3 months, once in April, once in May, and once in June, we plant a different type of seed. And the kids just absolutely love that. They just, you know, and they come back and they tell me if it grew. I'm always hoping they will. Little greenhouse with the plastic bag. And just something like that, it teaches patience, you know, and as you said, a sense of accomplishment. I can do this, you know, look what I did, it grew. Just something as simple as that. It's an idea that I would like to see happen there. And any age can do it, I mean.
I concur with that. That's good from age kindergarten up through senior and high school, even beyond that. I did see that. I mean, I was also an educator in this particular school right here in Carver. And arts and crafts, there's no question. Kids of any age do like to get involved in. Right now, though, I'm picking those 3 programs because I think that they will initially draw students of middle and high school age. Right. And that's the age that, especially the middle school, as you mentioned, that's the age group that I really want to try to draw in. And once we get that age group in, and they have ownership to what they're doing, then get hopefully some high school kids and working with the high school administration, especially the principal, and get high school kids in the tutoring program that I mentioned to help out the middle school kids. And now we have a diverse age group in our facility, or their facility actually. I shouldn't refer to it as ours because it's going to be their facility. Right. And from there, I hope things blossom, that we can have set times, as you do for your story hour, for arts and crafts, for even the younger kids to get involved, as well as the older ones. And hopefully, again, I want to see the older kids mentoring the younger kids. Exactly. I want to see a system where it's being run in such a way that we don't need that much adult supervision, and have it self-perpetuating, and have kids helping kids. Right. And in the end, that's one of my major goals: kids helping kids.
Excellent. Well, unfortunately, we've heard, all of us, I think, we've heard comments from people since the open house last September. You know, what's happened with YPAC? When are these programs going to start? Why is it dark in the Ben Ellis building? Maybe I should let you answer that again, Roger?
If you like. First of all, the open house was premature. The building itself is not ready to be occupied by children. It just isn't ready. There's some issues that we're dealing with the state in terms of what we call water withdrawal permits. Another problem that we're dealing with right now is that we don't own the building.
Right. That's something people don't really know, I think. A lot of people don't realize that.
No, a lot. In fact, when I came on board a year ago, I was under the opinion that this building was donated to the town for us to supervise in a capacity of some type of boys and girls club or youth center. And that isn't the case. We have had a lot of donations from townspeople. We're talking over $60,000 has been donated at this point. And we have a fiduciary responsibility to that money. We want to pay a fair rent to the landowner, but yet we want to be fair to the people that are actually paying for it. And that's not you and I.
Right.
That's the people of the town and their donations. So this has been an undertaking of negotiations. One of our board members, my son Daniel, is an attorney, and he's been working with the landowner's attorney or the building owner's attorney. And it's a difficult process to do that. There are some other problems too. Program development takes time to do it right. Now we can go in and throw up a couple basketball hoops and go in and raise hell. But that isn't what we want to do.
Right, correct.
We really don't want to do that.
Right.
So it does take time. I mean, as I mentioned before, in my career as an educator, I do know, and I do understand, it takes a long time to develop programs. We're also having problems with the IRS. We're looking for our tax-exempt status. It's called a 501(c)(3), and we are now past the limit time after we applied for it that we should have had it, and we don't. And we've gone to our Congressman Keating, who is working on it for us, or with us, I should say. Some local companies, like AD Makepeace, is giving us advice and helping us out. But, I mean, everybody's afraid of the IRS, so I get into bullying as being one of my major concerns about young people. Well, IRS is the biggest bullier there is in the world. And they just think that they walk on water. Well, they don't. We pay their salaries. We pay their salaries to do a good moral job.
Right.
And this 501(c), what it means to the general public and to us is that when somebody donates monies to this organization, they can deduct it on their income taxes.
Right.
And that's a big benefit for them, and it's a benefit for us, obviously. Without the 501(c)(3), they can't do that. All right, so it is without the 501(c) status or tax-exempt status, it's crippling us from getting the proper finances to run this organization. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that you know, I'm really quite fed up with it. And Lisa and I daily are actively working on this problem, and this problem will be solved.
It will. And Lisa, I know in your office you have a little sign on your desk that says, "Call IRS" in the AM.
Yes.
I understand we do have a 501(c)(3) status with the state, or am I not correct on that?
501(c)(3) is a
Or
federal.
a tax-exempt
Yeah,
status, I
right.
beg your pardon, right.
Right, we do.
Okay. But, so this one is the federal.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Which makes a difference to the big ticket donations we really could
Yeah.
use.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I have contacts in my family, professional fundraisers, one in particular out of New Jersey, and they're willing to help us on capital fundraising campaigns. not the local fundraising campaigns, because the local fundraising campaigns I look at as, I don't want to say small money, because a penny out of somebody's pocket can be the same as $50,000 out of somebody else's pocket.
Sure, absolutely.
So, you know, everything counts. But the 501(c)(3), or the federal tax exempt status, is going to allow us to have a capital fundraising campaign every 2 or 3 years. And that would be similar to like a Jordan Hospitals campaign, a South Shore Hospitals campaign. This is the type of campaign that we're talking about. And without this tax exempt status, we're just stymied.
That's the kind of campaign that will sustain us, really, I
Yes.
think.
Right.
It's not going to happen otherwise.
One other thing on that line, it also affects any grants.
Right, correct.
And there are a lot of grants out there that really want to donate to causes that we have. But right in their company bylaws, because they have a board of directors to report to, that you have to have, without exception, a 5013C status. I'd say at least 98 to 99% of these companies
I agree.
have to have that.
I agree completely. Speaking of fundraisers, does anyone want to tell us about the upcoming fundraiser that we're having February 8th? Anyone? Just give you an opportunity to talk. I know we didn't bring our poster, but.
Well, I know that Joe Mitch has been working so hard on the next fundraiser that we're going to have. So he'll probably have more to say about it than I do, but it's really a fun opportunity to engage the kids in the town of Carver. There's a local puppeteer who has donated his time to put on a show to raise money for YPAC, and I think there's 2 other.
I think there's a magician and a clown.
A magician and a clown, I think, that they've.
All 3 live right here in Carver.
Yeah, all 3 of them. We have a lot of talent here.
We do.
It's wonderful.
We do.
And they're all so generous. And so all 3 of them are going to be at the Frosty Dog on February 8th. I think it's
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Yeah. So it'll start at 3 o'clock and run until around 4, maybe a little bit later. But it should be a really, really great time.
And I think the tickets are $5 for kids. Anyone correct me if I'm wrong. 10 for adults.
I believe that's true.
And then a ceiling of $40 per family.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you have a family of 6 kids, you're not going to pay prices through the roof on us.
Exactly.
So there's going to be a limit. So.
Thanks. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Why did you get into this, Sarah?
Oh, well, thank you, Lisa. Well, I mentioned Story Hour. I've always loved children. I only have one son. I was very lucky to have him. But all my life, I've done things with children. When I was much younger, I was a camp counselor at a YWCA in Philadelphia. Summer camp, after school camp. This was a real inner city Y, and the kids had a tough time of it, and I learned a lot from them. When I was in high school, I taught a poetry class to 4th graders, just to see if I could do it, you know, and that was so much fun. When I was in graduate school, I taught undergraduates some sociology classes, and so I've done a little bit of that without. I don't have a a teaching degree, but it's very important to me to keep our children learning and interested in learning and eager. One of the things I tell the moms and grandparents and dads who come to my Story Hour is, if your youngster can't sit still for the book, don't worry about it, but bring them back, because then we're going to sing, and then we're going to do a little project. Because the whole idea is to make learning of really a fun experience and make them want to be there. So that's one of the things, and partly because of the other people who were involved. I have a lot of respect for all of you, and So, and that makes a difference. So.
Now, you are a select woman or a man, a select person.
Selectman, it's just a job title.
In town.
I am. But I'm not here as that.
I understand that. Do you feel that being part of this organization will help you in your position as selectman in terms of decision-making of youth things that come in front of the board?
Well, I'm glad you phrased it that way, Roger, because I was afraid you were going to say would help me in my position as selectman, full stop. I did not get involved in YPAC, just for the record, in any way, shape, or form as a town official. I just happened to be one. This came along. I'm also a town employee, the conservation agent, but I'm not doing any of those things in this capacity here. But will being part of this organization help me in my decisions as a selectman towards the youth in town? I certainly would hope so. I would hope so. I like to think so.
So this may be beneficial to the town in the end as a spin-off.
Oh, I hope so, yeah.
I believe it will.
Sincerely do, yeah.
And I appreciate your honesty, and I've always appreciated your integrity.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Closing words? Lisa?
No.
No? Okay. Thank you all so much. Do you have something else, Corey?
Well, I was going to say, in light of all of the questions and people wondering what's going on, that one of the most important things that I would like to say to the town is to keep the enthusiasm up, because that kind of enthusiasm, you know, reaching out and wondering what's going on is really what drives us when all of these gritty details keep like getting in our way with this 501c3. We know who we're doing it for, and
yes.
You do keep the pressure on us, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
But just, yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to know just how many people in this town are behind us. And
absolutely.
I have seen so much hope and so many different ideas, and we have people coming in with all of this enthusiasm and all of these ideas, and they just want to contribute to it, and it's just such a beautiful and wonderful thing. So I wanted to thank everyone for that. And
absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah.
Amen. Thank you all for being here. Roger Shores, Lisa Blair, Corey Ward. And thank you, everyone at home. This is Sarah Hewins, and we'll be back. Hi, welcome back. I'm Sarah Hewins, and today we're introducing the Community Steps Up, the Young People's Alliance of Carver. Earlier we talked with 3 other board members of the Young People's Alliance of Carver, commonly called YPAC. To my left is our executive director, Roger Shores, and we have 3 more board members with us now, Joe Mix, Hyacinth Lotman, and Dick Ward. I should also mention that there are 3 board members who were unable to be with us today. Suzanne Gordon, who is our treasurer, Will Sinclair, and Dan Shores, who is our attorney. Earlier we talked about, each of the members I talked with told us a little something about themselves, where they come from, what's your background, why you're interested in this program. Joe, we'll start with you.
Okay. Well, I'm not originally from Carver, but when I did get remarried and moved into Carver, I noticed that school, the Ben Ellis, was empty, and I told my wife, I said, why doesn't the town or somebody put that, use that for a youth program center or something like that? And that's something that I had thought about when, even when Dick was coming around and asking, what are we going to do with this building? We had the meeting there. Prior to YPAC even coming into play. I have been involved with youth sports since my son was 4 years old. He's 28 now. I have 4 children. 3 of them I coached football, basketball, soccer, baseball, everything. And I ran a very large basketball program down in the town of Bourne. And I have always thought that that would be an ideal place for, you know, something to do with kids.
That's awesome. I actually had no idea that you had thought of that even before. Because I remember Dick had a meeting with the neighborhood in particular. Yeah.
That was one of the first things I asked my wife. What are they doing with that building?
Yeah. Yeah. So, Hyacinth, what about you?
Well, my parents lived in Carver for 20 years, and I have lived in Carver for 3 years. My background is in education. I worked for Boston Public Schools monitoring programs for 30 years. A lot of the programs had to do with providing services for students with disabilities. But that didn't include all of the issues that are really, really important for children, namely learning how to work together, learning how to be wonderful citizens in a lovely community such as Carver. A lot of the programs that I helped to monitor did work with young people who were outside of programs for students with disabilities, commonly known as programs for regular education students. At this point, regular education students and students with disabilities are involved in the same programs in inclusive settings. I monitored programs all throughout the state of Massachusetts, and it is with great pleasure that I'm now living in Carver and continuing some of my work with the Young People's Alliance of Carver. The Young People's Alliance of Carver is a beginning organization for an after-school program for middle school age children, and hopefully to encompass younger children and older children. So I'm very happy to be a newly acquired board member.
We're happy you are. Thanks. Dick?
How long do you want this to be?
As long as you like.
Came here in 1964 as a teacher. Small town, 2,000 people, kids. Kids that did outdoor activities, hunting, fishing, but there were sports programs, but very basic. And so I raised 5 kids here, and in sports, in a variety of things, but always active. Kids were always active. Went to the high school in Plymouth, and I taught there for 23 years. This was Plymouth Carver Regional High School. And then, as I was saying to these folks here at CCA TV, 27 years ago, we started Carver High School. This building we're in,
Right.
27 years old now, going towards 30. Okay? So I came here when we first started here, and I taught here for 8 years. So my total teaching career with kids in Carver was 31 years. And so I kind of seen the kids in our town grow, and our town grow at the same time, and seen the needs of the kids change. And as we grew now, you know, when I came here, we had 2,000 people. Now we have roughly 2,000 kids in the school system.
Right.
Okay? So we've got a lot more kids. And actually, in terms of what we have for children, there isn't as much responsibility in the home now.
Right.
The kids don't have chores like when I first came here, when we were cutting wood to heat our house. A variety of things. It seems like the kids now don't have as much in those responsible areas in the homes. And there's a need for wholesome activity and growth. And now, and I didn't want to say too much about being a selectman, but I just want to say it because one of our big concerns recently is drugs with young people. And it's a kind of a big picture, and so we in the community have got to tackle this picture. And so as I came along a few years back, Clark Griffiths came to me and said, would you like to join me or work with us in developing some kind of a youth program? And he had in mind the Benjamin Ellis School, because it was not being used, and it was, the town wanted to get rid of it, basically, because it was a financial burden at that time. So I went down to the Boys and Girls Club in Plymouth with Clark, and we talked to the executive director down there, and we got some ideas. And then you start thinking about at-risk kids. Now, the old boys club that I remember in Plymouth when I was first teaching, basketball, and sports. But as I went down in those first 2 years ago with Clark Griffith, and saw the facility at the Boys and Girls Club in Plymouth, and at-risk kids and what they were doing. They weren't just basketball. They were a variety of academics, crafts, just a comfortable place that they liked to be. Wasn't a mimic of school. It was different from school. And so kids, I could see them, they were getting out of school and they're in a different environment, and they seem happy. It's less structured. And they were, so I got to thinking about it, and I think this could be a beginning area where we could help kids that might be at risk, that might not be at risk. But different kids are at risk at different stages in their life, in different activities. And so, my kids, although I might not have considered them at risk, might have benefited from a program like this when they were junior high school age. Right. So did a lot of thinking about it, and I think now I'm at the point now where I'm saying we can't let this not happen. This has to happen in our town. So that's why I wanted to help, and kind of that's where I am. I've coached sports of all kinds. I've had kids of all ages in the activities that I coached. Basketball from this big up. If you want to name it, I guess in Carver I've pretty much done it with different people. So I love Carver. I love what my kids had a chance to grow up in, and I think we need to grow and help all the kids as much as possible. So here I am.
So here you are, and we're glad you're here. I think it's interesting that our board of directors has 3 teachers, an educator who you weren't a teacher per se, but you were an educator. I know, Joe, you're planning on
I'm going back
being a teacher.
Right, I'm going back to school to get my teaching degree.
That's awesome.
Correct.
And I mentioned earlier, I do a lot of I've done a lot of volunteer work, and run this toddler story hour on Tuesdays, and done some. But I think it's very interesting, and it's the kind of thing that I want to make sure people realize. And even the board members who aren't educators or teachers, everyone has something to contribute here. Tell us if you can, and either any of you can go first, or you can jump in sometime if you want to, Roger, about the types of programs that you personally get excited thinking about when it comes to when we finally do get some programs set up. We mentioned earlier that just so people know, we don't own the building yet, that we are working on a lease. And there are various issues. That's one of them, and so we've had to do some fundraisers. We're planning new ones, and then we also have issues with the federal 501c3 tax exempt designation. So just so that people know. But once we do get up and running, Roger had mentioned a couple of programs earlier that he would like to see going. Which one of you wants to go first?
I'll go.
Yeah, go
Working for Boston Public Schools, I started out teaching students with disabilities.
So you were a teacher.
Yes, I was a teacher, absolutely.
Yeah.
And through that, and also looking recently at an after-school program in another community, I found that through my experiences and through my observations, it is the young people who lead us into the direction of success. So when we can provide the programming, they will come. I think what's also important is the survey that was done that showed the types of interests that the young people may have. So I would put on my listening ears, accompanied with the data that was obtained, and also communicating with the parents. I think that parents are an extremely important part of the livelihood of the youth of any community and of the community of Carver. So I wanted to be inclusive of the parental work that goes with working with all of the children, whether they be their own children or the next door neighbor's children. I think that programming for young people has to include a lot of interesting ways of working with the young people also, and really paying attention to how they work and what their goals are and how they can be effective citizens within this community.
And you're right, it is hard to do that without the parents.
I had a couple of concerns that aren't directly programmed. I mean, one of the things that I really want to emphasize to families out there is that one of our prime interests is to provide wholesome leadership and advisors and helpers for the kids.
Right.
And that's going to be an important part of what I see as we got to guarantee families when they send their tykes to this organization, to us for programs, that they are safe and that they're good, wholesome programs that we're running.
Exactly.
And and so when you're thinking about the programs, that's got to be that's the overseer of the program, helping the kids so they enjoy it, they get something out of it, and they benefit with values and other things that are wholesome.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. That should be first. Yeah. So, any thoughts?
Well, I've looked at, in my mind, what I'd like to see is, other than sports, which I always think of a kids, program to be, but like after-school tutoring, with various subjects, and if we can somehow get computers in there to help them out, anything for after-school to help these kids along. Those are the things that I look for. A safe haven, and someplace they can have fun, but. When it comes down to music, arts and crafts, things that they can, enjoy. And then if they have specific subjects that they're having a problem with, I mean, we have enough teachers here that, can help out. I know my strong point is not English, so I'll help them with the sciences.
We
and
all
stuff,
have our strengths.
But some, things along those lines. That's what I'm looking for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we mentioned an upcoming event that's coming around the corner. Unless let's do that, and then we'll get Roger back in here. There we go. So on Saturday, February 8th,
we will have Wayne Martin puppets along with magician George Lake and clown Donna Lawrence. She will also be the MC. And Wayne Martin has traveled Europe, he's traveled Australia, he's been through Canada, Mexico, all through the United States. He's worked with Jim Henson, Sid and Marty Krofft, Dolly Parton. Ooh. I don't know what Dolly and the puppets, do, but Bob Hope, he's been with a lot of talented people. So I suggest everybody, if you have some kids, come on down and join us at the Frosty Dog. And he'll start at 3. You can get there a little early and enjoy something to eat or drink at the Frosty Dog, and then I'll be in the big back room and enjoy Wayne Martin puppet productions.
And so that's Saturday, February
February
8th at 3 p.m. at the Frosty Dog, and that's
Correct.
up in North Carver.
Yep.
Can
Yes.
I jump in here for a
Absolutely.
moment,
Yes, Roger.
Sarah? And there is a limit to the number of people that can legally,
right.
in terms of fire laws,
Actually,
right.
yes.
be in the building. And what would that limit be, Joe?
If I remember, I think Chuck told me it was about 120,
120.
roughly.
So the doors will have to be closed after 120
Correct.
tickets are sold.
And
I
they're
just want to
sold
make
at the
sure
door.
that, you know, come early.
Yeah.
Come early and get your tickets. Don't go get something to eat and then come get your tickets.
Right.
Get your tickets,
Good point.
then get something to eat.
Yep.
And it's
Come
a
early.
double-edged sword. I hate to turn people away, but yet I hope that we have a full house.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So hope to see you there.
Come early and pay often.
Speaking of the price, I'll just say again that the price for children is $5.
Correct.
Adults is $10,
Correct.
and there's a family limit of $40. So even if you have if you have lots of kids, still only $40.
That's immediate family.
Right.
You want to bring the
There you
neighborhood.
So, well, any wrap-up thoughts, anyone? Where you see YPAC going from here? Or
I want to. It has to go in our town. Our town is going to grow, and the growth is probably going to be families with kids. And we are in an area where working folks live, and so when you have two adults in the family working, there's downtime for the kids, and something like this is going to become a more important part of our community availability for different things, schools and so on. And so we've got to rise to the occasion. It's time to start. So we got to start, and we may start slow, but the idea is that I'm looking about when I'm ready to croak. There's going to be a really active program available for my great-grandkids.
Right.
And I probably have some great-grandkids here in town.
no doubt.
My granddaughter's on our board. I mean, I
Yeah.
never expected that to happen, but
I know.
she's pretty sharp.
Yeah, she
Um,
is.
I shouldn't say I'm surprised. She's a good kid. But anyway, we need this has to happen.
Yes.
And that building is a beautiful building for this kind of an activity. There are spaces which allow for it. And the other thing I wanted to mention was we have to pull everybody in our town into this, because even though I might disagree with somebody politically, they have wholesome values, and we're in it together. And so we got to do this thing.
Absolutely.
So-
No, I agree completely.
I'd like to mention also that children that have problems are not dictated by the class.
Yes. absolutely.
Children of all different families, whether you be a foster child, as we have quite a few in Carver, people don't realize that, up to parents that are millionaires. There is no distinction in terms of things like bullying, drug abuse, and things like that. I took many polls when I was an educator. In Carver, I took these polls. And I had good respect from my students. And I do trust these polls. And it was upwards, on my last few polls, was upwards of between 70 to 80% of the students in the high school were on some type of substance. Maybe not on a regular basis, but they were on some type of substance. And that really, really scared me. And along with that, in discussion with these students, they said that one of the major problems was, as I've mentioned before, the bullying. Well, I'm kind of tying those together, because then they went on to tell me that students are actually bullied in the late middle school into doing drugs. Now, I can carry that even further. I talked about some grandchildren I have in Melrose, talking to my older grandson, who's a junior, and he said and told me with great sincerity, because we have a grandfather-grandson relationship where it doesn't go back to mother and dad. He told me that if his parents were not home on a Saturday night, and if he did not have a party, and a party with alcohol present, he would be in real serious trouble with his classmates, and he would be emotionally abused. Now, this is not a little guy. He's the size of Dick Ward, or practically there. He's 6'3", 260, and a football player. So nobody's going to mess with him, but yet he was still concerned and actually scared of being bullied if he did not have this type of party when his parents weren't there. In other words, it's expected of them. And I did want to bring that into play. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Goes along with what Hyacinth said. Our community has got to deal with helping adults too, and adults working and learning and families learning. It's, isn't that what you said, Hyacinth?
Right. I think that the young people are really the leaders of the program. I think that the adults in the program are simply the learners, because we as adults, we need to be able to take the cues from them, and we need to be able to garner their trust and to treat the young people as individuals so that their worth is valued. And we can provide, all of the accoutrements, all of the activities, all of the counseling, all of whatever a program is going to call itself as a program. But we need to be able to listen to the young people, provide a wholesome and welcoming environment with support and with supervision, so that the young people that come into and are part of the Young People's Alliance of Carver feel welcome, supportive, safe, in a safe haven, and have the ability to communicate with an adult or with an age peer, an age-related peer, so that their concerns and their issues are heard and respected and acted upon.
Absolutely.
Very good. Wish I could say it as good as you.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
I'd like to make another statement, and actually this is a statement. I'd like to apologize to the parents and young people of Carver that we have not started yet. There are things that I don't want to say beyond our control, because we are controlling them, but it has been a delay, and I want to apologize. And you people know, whether you be young parents, know Mr. Ward or myself, or younger people that may know us, you know that we do not give up. This will happen, and it will happen properly. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Roger. Absolutely. Thank you. Well, on that note, I think we should probably end, unless someone has something else to say. Thank you all so much for being here. Roger Shores, Joe Mix, Hyacinth Lopman, Dick Ward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
This has been, I'm Sarah Hewins, and this has been introducing the Community Steps Up, the Young People's Alliance of Carver, commonly known as YPAC. Thank you so much for watching.